Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Daytona Office Hours, where, as every week, we'll take a look at some of the most important changes that happened to Daytona over the past 7 days, and of course, have an open floor for any questions that anyone might have. So, let's get right to it. So my colleague Fabian last week covered the last commit that was made, which was from our colleague Goran, which is just a few fixes to the terminal connection issues that were happening with our web terminal for every sandbox. Then a small docs improvement made by me was that we recently migrated our documentation from a separate repository into our monorepo, and now the entire documentation is part of the Daytona repo. And I just made a PR to sync some of the open PRs that were left hanging in the docs repo. I just made one commit where I migrated all of the changes. Then our colleague Jaya made also a docs entry about kind of like a semi-article guide about using Daytona for data analysis, and you'll be able to read that with the latest docs update once we have that deployed. Then a few fixes in the API and our distribution of snapshots. Our CTO veteran made an update that would prefer to restore sandboxes to snapshots that already have the base snapshot pool, which just improves the overall restoration time of archived sandboxes. And also our VP Goran, he made a fix to basically, we had a big loop that would get a lot of queries in one go and listen sandboxes. We just improved upon that in this PR. Then a few fixes to the TypeScript SDK. So with the latest bump to .env, which is a package we depend upon to load environment variables, we notice that some logs are getting printed by default, and we just suppress them so it doesn't interfere with users' output if they gather outputs from the Daytona SDK. Then big but not so big refactor to the user side of things is the region or target is changed from enum to string, which will just make it easier for us to add new regions as we go on. We won't have to update our database model every time. It just is a string right now, and that will be important for a future release coming soon. A few fixes to the API as well, made by me. Basically, I'll just run through them. A fix for suspending organizations, a fix for allowing underscore in image name. One of our users noticed that you can't put an underscore when adding an image for a snapshot, just a small fix to that. Migrating all date columns to timestamp with time zone, and this will just help out with any discrepancies if need be. This was not really a big issue, but it might be an issue in the future. This just makes it a bit sturdier in the end. Then a few fixes from an external contributor. One was for computer use. They made an update where they use a different startup script for no VNC, which is more common than the one we used. But again, if it's not present, the new startup script, it will fall back to the old one that we use. And also a fix for registry URL protocol handling. This is important for registries that don't use HTTPS. This is a fix for that, and now everything should be working okay. Then a fix from our colleague Fabian. So one of us noticed that you could get mixed WebSocket events when you change organizations. Now the WebSocket connection for notification is scoped to that organization only, so there's no chance that you will receive notifications other than for the organization you selected in the dashboard. Then we have remove obsolete checks before propagating snapshots to runner. I think this is just a deletion of some code which was obsolete and nothing else. It didn't really influence any kind of behavior in our API. Then we merged a big PR called audit logs, again by our colleague Fabian. This is not deployed currently, but it will be in the next few days. It's a big PR that someone will probably cover in the next office hours, but basically it adds audit logs to our entire API, and every organization in Daytona will be able to query these audit logs in their own dashboard. So you will be able to see which user took which action on the API, for example, which user created a sandbox, which user created an API key, and so on. This will basically just improve general observability on the API side of things. And then we have a fix for some docs for the declarative builder by our colleague Ivan. A depend-about bump, two fixes for the CLI. One is to use the new preview port endpoint, which uses the new proxy we implemented a few weeks ago. And one fix for adding snapshots, just to add a getting of a single instance of the snapshot instead of listing all of the snapshots, which just made an improvement and a fix for adding the snapshot. And also, our colleague Ivan added a feature for our runners to gather metrics from the runners themselves, and this will give us more information for distributing sandboxes over them. These new metrics include CPU consumption, memory consumption, disk consumption, a ratio of that in regards to how much resources does the runner have, how many sandboxes are on there, and etc. Basically, the let's say availability score that's now part of the runner will help us make an informed decision about how to distribute these sandboxes across our runners. And lastly, a new commit was made 16 minutes ago. This is by our colleague Bruno. Just a fix for the dashboard, because when we made the refactor from region target from enum to string, Bruno noticed that you can't filter with these, let's say, quote unquote custom regions. And now the filter in the region column of the sandboxes page is a string as well. So you can now query any kind of, basically query any sandbox that is part of any region, not just fixed for US and EU as before. That's about it for the changes that occurred this past week. Let's try to see a bit on the PR side of things. So one important update by our colleague Mirko, which this will get merged probably very soon, is to support various runtime by our TypeScript SDK. So a lot of users have been asking us how to run the SDK in a browser or in serverless environments, and this PR aims to improve that. So the SDK can be used, for example, in a front-end application or Lambda functions or any kind of serverless environments. Because of our dependency list before, this wasn't possible, and most of the dependencies couldn't even be polyfilled, and this should now fix the issue by dynamically loading some stuff and polyfilling some other, and basically you'll be able to run the Daytona SDK wherever you like. And this is also a very big improvement for what we have coming as well, and that's our playground that will be part of the dashboard, and we'll with this we'll be able to launch it very soon. Next, we have, as you can see, a lot of depend-about updates, but because some of our dependencies got broken this morning, but we just need to make depend-about rebase most of these, and it should be okay. Then we have a big refactor from our colleague Luca. This is just a big code cleanup with our handling of sandbox state and also communication with the runner. Also, one commit or one PR that is very important for our updates coming up, and we'll share more about that very soon. And also one PR that's hanging here for 2 weeks by me is the Docker Compose setup, where I think I talked about this a few weeks ago, where users will be able to lift Daytona locally, basically effortlessly, by just running one compose command, and hopefully that will get merged very soon. That's about it from, I think, the most noticeable PRs right here. If anyone has any questions, feel free to ask, or anything up for discussion. If not, as always, we're available on X, LinkedIn, Slack, or even in our support widget in the dashboard. You can always reach us there. That's it for this office hours, and thanks for being here, and see you all next week.